From the book of Zechariah, chapter 9, verse 9. Rejoice greatly, O daughter of Zion. Shout, O Jerusalem. See, your king comes to you, righteous and having salvation, gentle and riding on a donkey, on a colt, the foal of a donkey. These words were written about 500 years before Jesus rode into Jerusalem. He knew the prophecies, and the time had come for him to kind of step out into the spotlight and to kind of take on his ministry full force, once and for all. So the disciples went, they got him the colt, and he knows, and the crowds know, and the disciples know what this means. It means that Jesus is fulfilling the prophecy of 500 years ago, that the king has finally arrived, that the king of the Jews is back, and he's going to take over Jerusalem and throw out the Romans. And this is a great day that's been waited for and waited for and waited for hundreds of years. And Jesus allows the disciples and the crowds to project their hopes and their dreams onto him. In Mark, we read, many people spread their cloaks on the road, while others spread branches that they had cut in the fields. And those who went ahead and those who followed shouted, Hosanna, blessed is the King who comes in the name of the Lord. So this is a day of great celebration. This is a day of great victory. This is the day that everybody has been waiting for. It's this glorious, wonderful day. So if you imagine a big parade or a big party, that's what this is like. You know, I've shared with you that I was in Africa many, many years ago, and I happened to be in Zaire on the day of Palm Sunday. And I woke up to these drums just pounding, and I woke up in the village. All the villagers had these giant palm branches, and they stood in 2 rows while the priests walked down the middle with the incense. And it was, for me, it was an awakening, because I went, oh, Palm Sunday, now I get it. It took me a while. Being from Chicago, I never saw a palm. So I'm like, oh, Palm Sundays. But the palms are a symbol of victory, a great victory. And so there's this great celebration, there's this great shouting happening, and yet in the book of Luke, we read, and when he drew near and saw the city, he wept over it, saying, would that even today you knew the things that make for peace, but now they are hid from your eyes. So there's 2 different perceptions. There's 2 different things that are happening here. There's almost like 2 simultaneous dimensions unfolding in one place. There are 2 ways of seeing, and one is with ordinary eyes, and with ordinary eyes we take things at face value. We see what is, and we assume that that is all there is. But when we see with the third eye, we see with intuition, we see with perception. We see beyond what is. And this is what Jesus is seeing in that day. He allows the crowds and the disciples to project their hopes and wishes onto him. And it's no different than what we see today with our political candidates, isn't it? We're projecting our hopes. We're projecting our anger. You know, all kinds of stuff is just floating around out there where it's just being projected everywhere and put out there. And yet there are always 2 ways of seeing that which is and that which is behind. How many of you feel like you kind of almost always see what's going on behind what's going on? That you have that inner seeing, that spiritual perception. So Jesus then is a symbol of the ultimate altruist. He gives of himself. He gives his life. He gives himself in service. And last week we talked about the different levels of altruism. And the first level is when we're serving, but we're serving to the detriment of ourselves, because there becomes a conflict over wanting to give, but having, just keep giving and not setting up boundaries, not receiving in return. And this is appropriate when we have small children. It's appropriate if we're taking care of someone who is sick or someone who is dying, but it's not sustainable because it's kind of martyrisk. It's victimish. Level 2 is learning to care for yourself, and you still serve others, and so it becomes empowering. And then level 3 is generativity, the willingness to care beyond our immediate concerns. So it's a willingness to care for the earth. It's a willingness to care for the animals. It's a willingness to care for a community that goes beyond ours. It's a willingness to care for generations to come. And this is where Jesus is operating from. He's operating from the level 3 of altruism. He is not concerned about himself or his own community, because if he was, he probably, when he's riding that donkey into Jerusalem, he's probably thinking, why not? I'll become the king of the Jews, and I'll reclaim Jerusalem. And, there was that path that was open, but instead, because he's operating from a higher level of altruism, he recognizes that even if he were to do that it would be limited, and that the message that he was bringing is somehow higher, and it's not just for the people of his time. In fact, the people of his time didn't really get it, but it's for the generations to follow. And that is that the kingdom is not of this earth, but the kingdom is the expansion and expression of consciousness within. So he is willing to give himself, including his life, for the greater good. So this is the day that he goes public, and he turns himself over to the events that are unfolding. When we are willing to go public with our beliefs, with our souls, with who we are, we step into a different arena, don't we? When you're willing to stand up and to be seen, you're stepping into a different arena. And the colt that he's riding into town symbolizes humility, but it also is unpredictable. I mean, what could be more unpredictable than a donkey, a baby donkey? You're riding in that, it's like, hello, and it's never been ridden before. Once this ride begins, there is no stopping it, and there is no controlling it. And the truth is that once we give our lives to God, once we surrender to the divine presence, you have no idea where you're going to end up, right? You ever just surrendered it all and just given it all over to God, and you don't know what's what? You may think you know, but... And isn't it the same when we give ourselves over to love? It's like getting on that colt. It's like you have no control over it. You may think you do, but you have no control over it, and you can't predict where it will take you. And it's true of projects, of anything that we venture into. Things have a life of their own. And our job is to stay with it and to walk through it together. We have that sort of project with our building, right? We're kind of on this colt that it's moving, and it's like, which way is it going to move? We're going to stay with it and see and guide it to the best of our ability. It is a colt. So we can look throughout history, and we can see examples after examples of people who have kind of joined the altruist and the warrior energies together and have given their lives for a greater cause, whether it be Abraham Lincoln or the Kennedys or Martin Luther King or Gandhi. And the truth is that ordinary people do extraordinary things over and over and over and over again, some big and some small, but that altruistic archetype is very powerful in our world and in our lives, and needs to be. I saw a posting on Rose's Facebook page that I want to share with you, not through video, but through description. And it happened in 2007. You might remember this story. A man by the name of Wesley Autry, he's 50 years old. He's got his 2 little girls with him who are 4 and 6. And they're in New York, and they're in the subway waiting for the train. And of course, it's crowded, right? It's crowded. And a young man, not too far from them, has a seizure. And he falls, and people, come around to help him. But he starts to get up, and he trips, and he falls onto the subway tracks. And he falls right in the middle. And no sooner has he fallen, but everybody looks over, and here comes the train. There's no time to think. There's no time to stop the train. And Wesley has a split second to think, and he jumps onto the tracks as the train is coming, and he jumps on top of this young man and pushes him down, and the man is still having a seizure, so he's moving. And he pushes him down as far as he can go, and he goes, "Look, I need you to be as still as you can and get as low as you can, because I have 2 daughters up there, and they need their daddy." So he puts his body flat, and the train goes right over them, literally a ½ inch. If he had come up just a little ways, he would have gotten killed by the train, and he had grease on his hat from the train. And so the train goes over, and miraculously, he's still alive, and so is this young man. Altruism, warriorship. They turn off the power, and they get both of them out. The young man goes to the hospital. He was 20 years old. He was going to film school at Columbia. And when asked, Wesley Autry said, "I don't feel like I did something spectacular. I just saw someone who needed help, and I did what I felt was right." Isn't that great? Wayne Dyer said this. He said, "When you're able to shift your inner awareness as to how you can serve others, and when you make this the center focus of your life, you will then be in a position to know true miracles in your progress toward prosperity." So in other words, as we are willing to give ourselves over, even in a split-second moment like that, we are, in a sense, putting ourselves in alignment with miracles. And what is prosperity but being with the right people, right? By having the resources that we need to fulfill our dreams. So it puts us on this track. So think about the times in your life when you have been in the right place at the right time. Perhaps if you hadn't been there, someone would have been hurt. Something would have happened. Think about the synchronistic events that have happened in your life. Because when they happen, doesn't it seem like there's a divine plan, like the hand of God? There was a quote that says, "Coincidences are God's way of being anonymous." So like there's this finger of God upon us. So when I went to Rome last year, I realized that I never had been to Italy, I'd never been to Rome, and I'm thinking, do I know anybody in Rome? Anybody at all? And I remember that I had gotten an email from a woman 6 months before, and she wrote me an email, and she said, my parents were married in Seattle Unity at this church in the 60s. And I just wondered what your theology was. So I wrote her back, told her what our theology was, and she wrote back, said, "Thank you very much," and that was it. So I'm thinking, I think she lived in Rome. So I emailed her, and I said, I'm going to Rome, and I don't know anybody, I don't know anything there. Can you recommend a place to stay? And she says, well, I rent rooms to my friends for like €25 a night, so you could stay here, you and your friend could stay. So I thought, that's cool. So we stayed with her and her mom and her son. Her mom was the person who was married here so many years ago. And of course, we connected. We had a really good connection. We had meals together. They were wonderful hosts. We stayed for about 5-6 days. And literally, when I was leaving, you have your suitcase and you're ready to go out the door, and then you start saying things that maybe you wished you'd said when you first got there. And I don't know how it came up, but somehow we started talking about our sons. And it turned out that her son went to Columbia in Chicago, as my son went to Columbia in Chicago. My son majored in film editing. Her son majored in film editing. And she said, my son's having a hard time finding a job. He's doing wedding videos. And I said, well, my son's working in LA as a film editor. She said, we need to get them together. I said, that's fine. Of course, time goes by, nothing. She emails me and she says, okay, so I'm finally connecting you, your son, and my son through this email. Introduce everybody. So I said, hello. So I call my son, and I'm going to be in this young man still lives in Chicago. I said, I'm coming to Chicago, so is my son, in May for graduation. We'll have coffee. He said, that's fine. So I call my son, and I tell him about this boy. And I said, you need to Facebook friend him. He goes, what's his name? I give him his name. He goes, Mom, I'm already Facebook friends with him. I'm like, what? He says, Mom, we graduated the same year. We worked on projects together. I'm like, you did? I said, well, we're having coffee in May, so... He may be moving to LA to live with you. I don't know, but we'll see what happens. But when those things happen, it's like these threads. It also makes me wonder if there's only a few people we're supposed to know in the world, you know? Doesn't matter where you go. It's like, oh. But when these synchronistic events happen, I think it is Spirit saying, yo, you need to pay attention a little bit here. You need to pay attention to what's going on. And does something always happen? No. But it's important to pay attention when it pops up. So, Jesus is practicing what he preaches. Remember at Christmas when we hold our candles high, let your light so shine before men and women that they may see your good works. Don't hide it under a bushel. Don't hide it under a table. And so as he steps out this day on Palm Sunday, he's letting his light shine. It's not the light that they're expecting, but he's letting his light shine. He's stepping out into this experience fully and completely. And we too need to let our light shine because all are lifted. Now, there's a quote in your bulletin from Marianne Williamson, which I'm sure many of you are very familiar with, who said that who are you not to be gorgeous and talented and wonderful? I'm obviously summing it up. Who are you to play small? You don't serve anybody by playing small, but rather by letting your light shine. But I want to share with you the words of Clarissa Pinkola Estes, because she said it as well, but she said it in a different way. And I think it is pertinent to what Jesus is doing. Ours is not the task of fixing the entire world all at once, but of stretching out to mend the part of the world that is within our reach. One of the most calming and powerful actions you can do to intervene in a stormy world is to stand up and show your soul. Soul on deck shines like gold in dark times. The light of the soul throws sparks, can send up flares, build signal fires, causes proper matters to catch fire. Struggling souls catch light from other souls who are fully lit and willing to show it. If you would help to calm the tumult, this is one of the strongest things that you could do. And is there not tumult in the world today? It's crazy, isn't it? The energy that is going around, the things that are being said, particularly on a national scale. I know the rest of the world. Scott is going to Italy in a couple of weeks. Good luck explaining our process to foreigners. They just kind of go, what are you people doing back there? I don't understand. So our task is to let our lights shine, to step in and follow in the footsteps of Jesus as he did on this day, recognizing that there are two ways of seeing, with ordinary eyes and with the eyes of intuition. Open this eye that we may see beyond outer appearances. Allow us to see into one another's souls, the namaste process. The altruist is concerned with the welfare of others. Ordinary people do extraordinary things every single day. Jesus stepped into the light, and so Let your light shine as you ignite other souls. Just as Jesus sat on that colt, so we too give ourselves to God and we ride the tide. We give ourselves to love and we ride the tide. May it be so.